So I recently presented in Buenos Aires a report I wrote for the UN Economics Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean, precisely on how powerful this idea of a challenge-oriented, mission-oriented approach could be for industrial and innovation strategy in the region. And really the idea there is to use the opportunity of the kind of missions approach, which I described before, to really foster investment in innovation across sectors, and really also to strengthen the civil service itself, to think through all those different levers that are available. I've mentioned procurement. Procurement should be outcomes oriented. I've mentioned public-private relationships with conditionality at the center. I've mentioned the need for public banks, which don't just give out money, but have conditions attached to make sure that in exchange for a public subsidy, a public grant, a public loan, we have a business investment towards a strategic objective like carbon neutrality, reducing the digital divide, stronger health systems, and so on. So SDG 6 around clean water and sanitation just really presents all sorts of different possibilities that underlie, the complexity of our water challenges. And but key there is really rethinking, not just the design of a policy, but what is the way that we can rethink almost the role of the civil service and the state in the process. And so a state that actually provides a direction through a mission-oriented program, but leaves open the how, so you don't micromanage business because that could stifle innovation. So having a portfolio mindset where different types of companies are supported, not just one that lobbies its way up, not just one industry, but really a portfolio across a risk space, which might provide some guarantees to business, but also that takes care to make sure that if things go well, the public sector is not just funding the downside, but also perhaps getting a share of the upside to create a future innovation fund to start the cycle again. That's kind of a public venture capitalist kind of way of thinking, but always opening up the space for small, medium enterprises to enter the scenario, so we don't just have the large monopolistic companies getting that state support, and really helping companies welcome the experimentation process that's needed. We know this from the venture capital sector. For every success, there's many failures. We need to actually nurture a culture of experimentation and risk-taking, both within business, but also within the civil service, within the state. I've set up the Institute for Innovation and Public Purpose at University College London precisely to rethink the civil service and to allow it to learn through trial and error. I'm very inspired, for example, by Corfo in Chile, which has been thinking through, what it means to have an innovation agency that works closely, for example, with GovLab, Laboratorio de Gobierno in Chile, which has for a long time been thinking precisely about innovation, not just through government, but within government. How do we, again, have a culture of experimentation within our civil service? And I only mention this because it's critical. We can't have better policies around water without a stronger local administration. I have a new book coming out on the problems around outsourcing to the consulting companies. We have many governments across Latin America, Africa, and Europe, which have unfortunately decided to outsource a lot of that capacity that used to be within our public administrations to consulting companies, whether it's McKinsey, KPMG, Deloitte. We need to insource that capacity. Of course, using some consulting is fine, but in order to really govern our water challenges, we need new ways of thinking about the governance process itself and value creation, so that government isn't there just to redistribute value, but also to co-create. And it's precisely around the co-creation side that we need to really think about innovation and industrial strategy at the center of our ability to tackle the water challenges. So it really becomes a way to think together of what the goals should be around SDG 6, which then require public and private investment and that portfolio approach and experimentation approach.